Hey everybody, it's William from Magic the Friendly Tavern. Today we're going to be discussing a number of topics. This is kind of a free-form video. I just want to kind of get in some nitty-gritty with you guys and explain a few things. The first thing we're going to look at here is I have some tabs open with a few choice websites. The first one we're going to talk about is Moxfield. Moxfield is wonderful. Moxfield is a deck building site that's primary color is purple. How can you say no to purple? Well, what you can do with this site is build a deck or upload a deck list into it and then save it, and then you can go and modify it all you want, changing it, readjusting it, whatever, but it stores your deck list for you. And you can see I got 3,000 views. This is my signature Shroom tier artifact combo deck, The one thing you can do is, here's a bar down here. This tells you how much the whole deck costs, how many cards are in the main board. But here you have a breakdown of card types. You have 0 planeswalkers. I have 7 creatures total, including my commander. I have 11 sorceries. I have 28 instants, 25 artifacts. I am an artifact deck. 3 enchantments, and 30 lands. This right here is the first thing I ever look at when I look at a deck. If these numbers are jacked up, I can already tell that a deck is not right. If you're not running Enchantress, but you've got 14 enchantments, you're not doing it right. If you have 30 sorceries and no instants, unless it's a theme deck, you're not doing it right. If you have 40 creatures and no other spells, still there's room for improvement. It depends on the deck style you're building, but these numbers are important and they kind of clue me into what's going on under the hood of your deck. Like if I scroll down here and you see my curse stops at 4, or actually 5 Force of Will, but that's a free to cast spell, so it actually stops at 4. With 1 spell damnation, this cast for 3 because of Phyrexian mana. If you have 7, 8, 9 drops, no artifacts, and 30 lands, I know you're in trouble because you're never going to get to cast some high drops because you're not running enough lands, and not running artifacts unless you're running Mana Dork tells me you do not have enough mana accelerants in the deck to do what you're trying to do. I can find all that out by putting it in this list mode where I can see each mana drop value and how many of each you have right here in this little number. I can tell if your curve is too high on the back end. I can tell if you're running too few lands. I can tell your breakup's not right. And go through it that way. I don't even have to look at the individual card selection. I can just tell that your deck mechanically will not work in the configuration it is. The spells mean little. Let me explain. Outside of hard counter spells and other proactive removals, most spells fall into the reactive category, or they fall into the creature category. Now, let me explain something about creatures. Creatures are a dime a dozen, and unless they do something very specific that can be broken, they are interchangeable with each other. A 2 mana first strike 2/2 is on the same par as a 2 mana 2/2 lifelink. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. A 7 mana 7/7 trample is about the same as a 6 mana 6/5 trample. They're interchangeable. There's not really much difference there. Vanilla creatures that just have combat-oriented abilities are just a dime a dozen. There's so many of them, they're interchangeable. None of them are beyond broken unless they do specific things that allow you to make them above and beyond broken. Let me explain something about my deck. My deck runs 7 creatures, and there's a reason for that. When I first started this deck, I didn't think I was going to make an artifact deck. My goal was to make a spellslinger deck that ran no creatures. I found out that I could run artifacts and do the same thing as an added bonus. So I did. First creature in my deck is my commander, combo piece. Nothing more, nothing else. Let's group it by type here. And we will see there are other 6 creatures. Look, Walking Ballista, combo piece. Finisher for combo pieces. Disciple of the Vault, combo piece, finisher. Thassa's Oracle, combo piece, finisher. Tribute Mage, tutor on a stick, no combat abilities. Trophy Mage, tutor on a stick, no combat abilities. Phyrexian Metamorph, combo piece, enabler. That's it. My creatures do a specific thing. If I'm not going to combo that turn and win or try to win, you'll never see this creature, or you'll never see this creature, this creature, or this creature, or this creature hit the field. I'll take that back. You'll never see this creature or this creature hit the field. If I'm not going to combo to win, you'll never see them hit the field. If they do hit the field, I'm in a lot of trouble. You will, however, see me cast this creature even if I don't combo with it, because I can get value off its ability, and it is a 5/5 flying dragon. It does do damage. If I'm on that plan, it's my last resort plan, and it's a bad plan. It's not going to work, but I will still try and do it anyways. Sometimes everybody's already taken a beating, and it's real late game, and everybody's out of gas. It might get me there. Walking Ballista, same thing, but just so much worse than Shroom. Disciple of the Vault, if I got enough artifacts out that they wrath my artifacts and it will kill the table, then I'll run it out. Other than that, combo, or it doesn't come out. If I'm desperate, and looking for a card and need a tutor, I'll play this. It's not pretty, but I'll play it. Might even only dig 2 deep, but I'll play it. Like I said, these are just tutors on a stick, so don't worry. Phyrexian Metamorph will come down outside of my combo. To copy another artifact I control, or to copy a creature my opponent controls that's dealing me a lot of hate. That's the only time this will come down outside of combo. But other than that, combo pieces and 2 tutors on a stick. Furthermore, we'll look at this next pile, these sorceries. These are mainly cantrips. Cantrips are 1-mana spells that draw you a card. They have a minor effect and they draw you a card. Blue just happens to have the best cantrips because they usually manipulate the top of your library and allow you to dig a little deeper. Like Gitaxian Probe, you look at target player's hand, draw a card, but it's free. It's a free draw. That's a good counter. Ponder is look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order you may shuffle, draw a card. Really good. Portent's about the same. Preordained is about the same. Serum Visions. Demonic Tutor is a tutor. And tutors are important. Tutors are important because they go get you the card that you need exactly when you need it and put it into your hand, like Demonic Tutor, or put it on top of your library, but put it within reach. If you're going to run in higher tier pods, you're going to want to consider tutors a lot. You're going to consider a lot of deck manipulation and a lot of card draw, because you're going to have to rip through that 100 card deck to find 2 or 3 pieces to put together in an A+B combo deck to win. At least some style like this. So Transmute Artifact is another tutor. Fabricate, tutor. Draw. That's actually a board wipe, and that's a board wipe. But some decks are creature focused, so I have 2 board wipes in the main. And I have a Cyclonic Rift. But other than that, I really don't have much against tutors. I have a Path to Exile and a Swords to Plowshares. And that's about it. I'm not focused on trying to stop my opponents. I am an A+B. I'm a fast A+B combo deck. Meaning I want to combo fast, even though this deck is slow. It's an oxymoron. My win turn is 80% on turn 5. But I can combo as early as turn 1. So I can combo turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. But most definitely turn 5. and most definitely any turn after that, barring disruption. So all I want to do is amass my combo pieces through tutors and draw, and then use my limited amount of counter spells to push my combo through. I don't want to be the first person to attempt to go off. I want to be like the second or third, usually. I want to win out of nowhere. I'm not trying to just push it all day long. Anyways, back to this. As you can see, the grouping and the type sorting is all nice. It helps you evaluate a deck, but that's not the only tools we have on this website. Look here. This is a curve. This is a curve graph. This shows you all the cards you have on curve. Now, when we say curve, that's exactly what we mean. Your curve should start small, group up to large, and then sway back down to low. Your curve should not be a diagonal. I mean, a diagonal this way or a diagonal this way. There should be a curve to it. With your 1, 2, and 3 dots being the most important slots in your deck. Yes, 5 and 6 and so on drops are important, especially if you're building a deck that wants to ramp through this area to play all of this. But you got to understand, you're going to end up playing more turn 1 through 4s in a match than you are turns 8 through 9. Always. Always. You will always play more early turns than you will ever late turns. So the early game is the most important. The first 3 turns are the most important of a match that set the tone. Okay, so have your curve in the front. Don't backload your deck. All right, now here we have a mana breakdown. This tells you the average mana value of your main board is 1.21 with lands and 1.74 without lands. The total mana value of this deck is 120. So if you break that down, on average, my spells cost 2 mana. My deck on average is able to produce 120. So you divide 120 by 2 and you get 60. It's hard to explain. I'm in good shape. Look, this number should never be above 4 or 5, honestly. Depending on your deck. I mean, it shouldn't be above 3, honestly, in any deck. And your deck should always produce way more mana than your average mana cost. Down here is a breakdown of colors. See, 9% of all my mana symbols are white. I have 30% mana white production. 30% of my lands produce white. Plus, there's other things in there that produce white. So I produce enough white to cover this 9%. 50% of my deck is blue. I produce 43% off my lands alone, but again, I have other spells in here that produce blue. So this is covered pretty well. I have to get double blue, and then sometimes double black. Sometimes that can be a challenge. But it happens, because this is mainly a blue-black deck with just a splash of white. I usually get there. See, 16%, 30% off my lands. Getting that one black source is never a problem. Getting the second one's not hard. Double blue is not really that much of an issue. 30% of all my deck is colorless, and 20% of my lands produce colorless. It doesn't matter. I don't have any colorless cards in my deck. I just have generic mana costs in my deck. And they cast for free. It doesn't matter what my mana looks like color-wise. My artifacts are getting in play. It's fine. So I'm good there. If you're like 40% of your deck is blue and you're only producing 20% off your lands for blue, you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're doing it. I'm going to stop using that because it's so negative. I'm sorry. That's not what I mean. What I mean is it's not right. Your deck is not functioning the way it's supposed to function. After that, we have a hand tester. This is a play tester of hands. As you can see here, I have an Ancient Tomb and a Swamp. I have 3 blue cards. One of them being double blue. I need a blue source. This hand's terrible, but we can play test it. And I'll show you something. So we go turn 1. We'll go Swamp. Mana Vault. We can draw for turn. Because, multiplayer, pod, whatever. We were only supposed to draw 1. Twilight Moon is ominous. That has a blue symbol on it. Next turn we'll be able to play that. And produce our blue to unlock our hand. Okay, so Ancient Doom. Draw a card for hand. Serum Visions. Oops, keep drawing more. Let's shuffle this. Actually, let's leave it there. Okay, so tap Ancient Doom, take 2, put out my Talisman of Dominus, take another. That's 3. Who cares? I'm at 40 life. So 37. We are going to actually ponder here. And, so we look at top 3. That's not what, okay. And we're going to put Scroll Rack back, Disciple of the Vault back, and then we'll put Hollow Fountain on top. Then we'll draw a card. So we drew that Hollow Fountain. Alright, that's fine. Next turn. Now we're looping into turn 4. Play a Hollow Fountain, Chalk. Whatever, we're losing more life. I lose a lot of life in my deck, it happens. We have Tainted Pack, we have Mission Briefing. We don't really got much going on. So we'll probably just want to try and resolve a Rhystic Study and take 2 more damage. Rhystic Study either Lizard fails, our second play is going to take another damage. And play a Serum Visions. Draw a card and scry 2. I will put down. That's fine. That's not gonna work. We'll put Mox Opal back, and then we'll put Scroll Rack on top. Alright, untap, we're on turn 5. Hopefully nobody's won the game. Nobody's taken us out yet. Could happen. We don't really have much going on, but we can draw a card. So play Scroll Rack. I don't know how to do this. That won't work. So on and so forth. It doesn't look like we're going to get there with this hand. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. It depends on how much time we're given. But this was not a good showing, but that was not a good hand either. So that just shows you, you can play around in this and mess around and see how your deck draws, see how different hands play out. It's goldfishing. It's like you set a bowl down of water that has a goldfish in it. You give them a deck, and then you play your deck against them, and the goldfish never wins. Speaking of that, we're gonna move. We're gonna move back to Moxfield. We're gonna move to talking about non-commander decks. We're gonna talk about 60-card decks. So we're gonna go home. Now we're gonna view all personal lists. This is a standard deck I have right now. It's a standard Grixis Midrange. I'm a free 2 player on Arena. This is my Arena deck that I am currently using to win games. And yes, it does actually win games. Not all of them, but it does win me some games. Now, the first thing I want to tell you about Arena is I play it like I play paper. Best 2 out of 3. And the reason we play best 2 out of 3 is because 2 out of 3 decides the better deck, not the luckiest player. Secondly, you also have a 15-card sideboard. Here it is. That will allow you to sub cards into your deck to shore up bad matches and to take down decks you normally wouldn't be able to otherwise. Now, the thing I want to show you about this, and we're going to try this real quick, is you can go ahead. This is another functionality of Moxfield. Is you can alt tab. We're alt tabbing. What we're doing is we're going over to my arena. You see, we're on arena, and here are my decks. All right, I didn't know if that was going to work or not because this recording will close if it shows my desktop, so I didn't know if that was going to happen or not. These are my decks that I built. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this deck, you're going to double click it. That's not what we're going to do. Actually, I'm sorry. Hit the done button. Okay. We're going to take this deck and we're going to hit this export button. That Abzan junk has been copied to my clipboard. Okay. It has made a list for me in English of every card in that deck, so I can use that list in other sites and or my own personal use. So we're going to alt tab. We're going to go back to Moxfield. Now watch this. We're going to go home. We're actually going to move that real quick so I can get to this plus button right here and create a new deck. We're going to name this Explorer Abzan Junk Rock, because it is actually all of those things. So it's Formats Explorer, no folder, public view, deck list, paste in list, hit your right click, paste, and then it's there. Bam, create. And there you go. Do you ever wanted to modify your decks on MTGO or MTG Arena and play around with them without actually having to mess around with a physical deck? This is the way you can do it. You can build a list in there, and then you can import this list, and I think you can take it back over to Arena and put it in, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But here's my Abzan list. It's been doing very terribly. It's just too fair. Siege Rhino is not the champion of the people like it used to be. It's just being overshined. I will show you, however, because of my success with Grixis and Standard, I actually decided to make a Grixis deck in Explorer as well, and it's alright. It's alright. It's not great. Definitely a lot to be desired, but it is doing pretty good. This deck draws a lot of cards. First of all, I got Ledger Shredders in there, plus Jace Mirror Mage, plus Valakut of Awakening, Thirst of Discovery, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Cathartic Pyre, Tenacious Underdog, top that off with a Tushi, Memory Deluge, and Sworn the Mirthless. Yeah, I've drawn 5 cards in one turn in this deck. I didn't win, but I drew 5 cards in a turn. And I have my sideboard. And that brings me to our next topic we're going to talk about. So this is best of 2 or 3 to get the sideboard. So let's start with Standard. A lot of people want to play Standard on only play 1v1, 1 round on the client, then don't realize how they can build a better deck. Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is you need to know it's played in Standard. Standard has a small card pool that rotates. That means it changes. But what's good still stays good for a while. But sometimes when it rotates and new cards come in, what was good is not good anymore. But usually the meta is solved and the new tier 0 decks are out within a week, 2 weeks at max. So what you really want to do is you want to go over to a client like MTG Goldfish, another website, and then you want to look at decks. You want to look at popular decks in metagame right here. That's the one you want to click. Here's the standard metagame. Look at this. 20% of it is Esper Midrange. Another 20% of it is Grixis Midrange. Rakdos Sacrifice, Mono Black, you know, and here's your offshoot decks that you might run into, but not likely. These are going to be the major 3-4 decks you're going to see online. Guaranteed. Yeah, so you're going to be on the lookout for these decks. You actually should look in these decks and see what they run. And I'm not saying copy them. I mean copy them if you want. If you got the cards, you got the know-how, build it, see if you like it, pilot it, whatever. It doesn't matter on Arena if you're a good deck builder. It matters if you're a good pilot. That's the only thing that'll get you up the ladder. Now, note, you're not scouring these decks to look for things to copy unless you're out of ideas. You're scouring these decks to find out what to put in your sideboard so you can beat these decks. So, this one only runs 13 creatures. 5 planeswalkers and 10 spells. So 15 spells. Plus 2 artifacts. And plus a Meathook Massacre. That's 22 spells that are not creatures. Do you know what's really good against 22 spells that are not creatures? Negate. This guy right here, counter target non-creature spell for 2 mana. It's really good against it. Negate's a great sideboard card. I mean, they got 1 main board, they got 1 main sideboard. 2, you bring 2 in. You see this deck, you know they're not going to play that many creatures. So you can side out a little bit of removal to handle it. You know, you want to be, this looks like it creates, some tokens. Tenacious Underdog, you want to be aware of that. Once they get in their graveyard, they can just keep reoccurring it. This thing allows them to draw and discard, to put things in their graveyard. This you don't want going to the graveyard. And this you just don't want on the board at all. Especially if you're drawing a lot of cards. These Planewalkers are nasty. You definitely don't want those on the field. So, Hero's Downfall. Covers Planeswalkers. Covers the creatures. Pretty good. Meathook Massacre. If you get behind and they got a bunch of creatures on the field, Meathook Massacre works as a removal spell. But most of these creatures are not going to fall for it, so you don't really want to side that in against this deck. Now what you do is you want some unlicensed Hearths for graveyard removal for things like the Tenacious Underdog. This has a lot of counter spells in it. You'll want to do something about those counter spells. Negates are good. Duress is great against counter spells. Duress is super good against counter spells. You're not going to want Disdainful Stroke so much. Soren's alright. You know, you're going to have to find your own avenues to how to defeat cards. But now you know what you're looking for, kind of in a sideboard card to go against this. Let's see, Grixis Midrange. What are you doing? This thing is a nasty deck. Urtai the Resurrected, Sherold, everything's running Sherold, it's nasty. It's just free damage on a 4/5 Death Toucher, that's a big body for 4. And that two nug every time your opponent draws a card. I mean, that puts you on a 10-turn clock if you're at full health. That's decent. Course of Fraser, more stuff to do with the graveyard. You know, some removal. Maybe you put anti-removal spells in your sideboard. Make sure you have some type of graveyard removal at least. Some type of sweepers. You know, just this and that, depending on what you're able to run. Stuff that hits artifacts and enchantments is great if it's in your color pie to be able to do so, especially against this deck. You know, just look for cards that are effective against the decks you face most often. One thing you'll notice on my standard Grixis is for Knight of the Dust Shadow main board. And I run this because they would actually either be in the main board or the sideboard. The thing is, I needed more creatures, so I figured I'd run the playset in the main board. It didn't really matter that much. This shuts down life gain decks. Straight mono white life gain, this shuts it down. I wish it were an enchantment or something else that's harder for them to blow up than a creature, but it's not. But this will give them a headache. This will make them target it. And them targeting a 2-mana 2/2, that's fine with me. I'll let them eat them all day. If they're busy dealing with that, they're not busy dealing with my other stuff. My better stuff, like my Kick Tainted Adversaries, or my Ledger Shredders that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, or my Tenacious Underdog that's drawing me a card. They're having to deal with these. So great, fine, whatever, works for me. Essence Scatter, 4-main deck, because most standard decks are creature based. Not all of them, but most are. And I'm low on the ladder, so I face a lot of rogue decks more than I do the major ones. I haven't made it that far off the ladder yet, because I only play for my gold every day. I don't grind the ladder, and then I'll plan on it. It's not good for my health. Cathartic Pyre doubles as it's removal for a creature or planeswalker, a small one or a damaged one. But I can also use it to discard 2 cards and draw that many. That's pulling double duty. That flexibility makes the spell great. It's perfect. It's wonderful. 2 Meathook Massacres in case main board in case I fall behind. Then I have Biting Palm Ninjas because they can remove that counter on them and make my opponent discard a card of my choice. That's great. Or exile that card, actually. That's great. They don't see this coming a lot. I am going to be running 4. I'm going to change the list. There should be 4 of these because I just made my last 4th copy. This is the most broken card in Standard right now. This thing, everybody's running it. If you haven't noticed, besides the Esper Control, most of the decks is Standard or black-red base. And that's because black has Meathook Massacre plus Infernal Grasp and Shearold and all these other nasty cards that are really broken. And red has this. This is Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It's a saga. Let me explain. For 3 mana, you get a 2/2 creature that when it attacks, makes treasure. So that's a 2/2 creature that gains value if it's not checked. When it attacks. So even if you attack with it and it dies, you still get a treasure. So that's still value you made off of that 2/2. Then next turn, you get to discard up to 2 cards, and then if you do, draw that many. So that fixes your hand. You can discard 2 lands if you're flooding and draw 2 relevant cards. You can discard 2 irrelevant cards and draw into 2 relevant cards. You can discard 1 card and draw into 1, or you can skip this entirely. So that's another piece of value. Right there, a 2/2 that makes treasures when it attacks. That's worth 3 mana. Discarding 2 cards and drawing up to 2 cards. Well, on Cathartic Pyre, that's worth 2 mana plus another ability. So consider that worth 3 mana. Now exile this saga and then return it transform to your control. You get another 2/2 creature that and tap it to create a token of another non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So you get not only 2 creatures out of this 1 enchantment, you also get to discard cards and draw cards, and then you also get treasures off the 1 creature, and then this one taps to create hasty tokens of other creatures you control, like Biting Palm Ninja, and Ledger Shredder, and Tainted Adversary, and Spectral Adversary, and so forth and so on. And I can make copies of Atushi and keep the real Atushi, sacrifice the copy to the legendary rule, and get one of Atushi's abilities to trigger. So I can create 3 treasure tokens, or exile the top 2 cards in my library. I can get so much value off of this one creature. It is insane. This thing literally does 5 different things for the cost of 3 mana. That is way too much value on one thing. And yeah, so they make the 2/2 and then you blow it up. They still have a 2/2 that makes treasures. If they get both creatures and you blow one up, I mean, it's just too much value. The only thing that works really good against this is duress it out of their hand, first of all, with your duresses. Where are my duresses? I don't have any duresses in the sideboard of this. No wonder. That's actually kind of strange. I'm surprised at myself for not running a playset of duresses. Duress it out of their hand, or hit it with the triple or the quadruple black spell in one, Invoke Despair. After they play it. So, Invoke Despair costs 1 and 4 black. Sorcery. Target opponent sacks a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life. You draw a card. Repeat this process for an enchantment and planeswalker. So basically, they only have to have the 1/2/2 out, plus the enchantment, and then you make them sack both, and then maybe draw a card and lose 2 life because they won't have a planeswalker out. If you hit it early enough. If not, this isn't really even that much more effective against it. That's just the breaks, kid. That's how it is. If you're not running this, you're behind already. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's that broken. Will it get banned? Probably not. It's broken, but it's not that broken. Because we have a few answers to it. Still, I don't think they should push these sagas as hard as they do. This is dangerous. And it's okay. It's okay. Next thing, okay, so Tucci's at the top of my curve. I got 1 Memory Deluge and Sworn the Mirthless. I am a mid-range deck. I am looking to put out low to the ground threats early in the game and then push them through with 1-for-1 removal. That is my game plan. And it works out pretty well. Maestro Diabolus works really well because it's Death Toucher. That helps me deal with creatures that are larger than mine that I normally couldn't deal with. I can at least make combat not good for them. Thirst of Discovery can go down to 1. I don't run that many basic land cards. I'm probably going to cut a Thirst for Discovery and add in another Fable of the Mirror Breaker. As for my land, they're abysmal because I am a free-to-play player, so I don't have all the fancy lands. That's also another reason why these numbers look cooked. I don't have but 2 Ledger Shredders, or I'd run 4-0. The truth in a 60-card deck is you want to run 4-0s. You want to compact it. You want this to be redundant. As redundant as you can make it, so that you can always tell exactly what it's going to do each and every single time. If you want to see a card less, you run less of them. If you want to see a card more, you run the whole playset. If you kind of want to see it every once in a while, then you run 3. If you definitely never want to see it, run 1. If you can go get it with tutors and stuff, then running 1's fine. That's how this works. Like, I love Memory Deluge, but I never want to see it. I only run 1 of. This card ends up being the 1 card in my opening hand almost every single game. But, whatever. That's variance. That's variance, baby. Alright, so Bloodfell Caves, terrible lands, coming to play tap, doesn't do much, terrible. If I could replace these, I would. Can't. Run them anyways. Enter battlefield tap. So I have 5 into tap lands, another into tap land. Can't come into tap. This is just terrible. But here's the point I want to make. You see this Waterfront District? It's better than all the rest of these tap lands for one reason. It has an activated ability on it that allows me to sack it and draw a card. That means it replaces itself. Once it's outlived its usefulness, I can cash it in for another chance at a good top deck. That's the kind of stuff you want to be running, not this kind of stuff. That gaining 1 life is negligible. It does matter in some games, but not a lot. It's terrible. Ones that just come into play tapped, terrible. Not good. Same here. This one though can't come into play untapped, making it better. Okay, if it has a chance to come into play untapped, better. Coming into play untapped, always good. Most of these should probably just be more mountains and islands, but whatever. It works for me. Now, here's the next part I want to mention. Just like the Waterfront District, lands that have abilities that use their spell-like, that do other things besides produce mana are great. So for war, I could chunk this and make 2/1s. Comes up from time to time. Really does. Can win you the game. Can get that last couple of points of damage or put up the blockers you need to survive one more turn to hit your opponent. Great. Perfect. Look at this one. Mill 3 cards and return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to hand. Great. Cashes in. I don't need it as a land. Cashes in and gets me value. These are what you want to be running. These spell-like lands allow you to put more spells in your land slots because this is a dead card. Turn 7, empty board on my side. My opponent's got a board. If I draw Dismal Backwater, I'm going to lose because it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing to win me the game. It does nothing to bring me to parity. It does nothing to bring me ahead. Dead card. Always. Good in the beginning. Good for color fixing. Horrible in anything else. I'll show you. We'll go back to my commander deck for a second because I'm just love confusing you guys. And I want you to notice something. Okay. Utility land. You can call it utility because it ramps. Fetch lands work with your cantrips. Alright, that I showed you earlier. Work with your cantrips. Works with Sensei's Divining Top. Works with Scroll Rack to clear cards that you put on top of your library, clear some out of the way so you can look at fresh new cards. That's utility out of this land besides fixing my colors. Okay, that, same thing. Buried Ruin, sacrifice it, return target artifact from your graveyard and utility. Make the target player draw 3 cards. If they Thassa's Oracle, in response to the trigger, you can make them draw 3 cards after they've resolved their demonic consultation or their tainted pact and make them lose the game. Or I can dip a bunch of lands out of my hand to draw 3 cards. Either and or utility. Utility on this. Color fixing, utility, color fixing, utility. It's a tutor on a stick. It's so yeah. Color fixing, but it also cycles, so a little bit of utility. More color fixing. Seed of Synod counts as an artifact, so there is utility there. Spire of Industry is color fixing. Strip Mine blows up another land. I don't know why my particular copy is in Italian, I want to say. But blows up another land, another problematic land, so utility. So on and so forth. So if it's not color fixing, working with my fetch lands, then it's utility. I run as many utility lands as I can. The problem with utility lands, a lot of the times though, like Ancient Ruins, is they don't produce colored mana. My deck is full of colored pits. Even for an artifact deck, I have a lot of colored pits. Colored mana is very important to me. If I ran nothing but colorless lands that we had utility, it wouldn't work. That's why I need so much color fixing. But the ones that I do run that have utility are there because of their utility. Another thing about utility lands is most of the time they come into play tapped. And I don't want tap lands. I do not want tap lands in my deck. If you can't see, besides My one, sorry, let me think about it for a second. My one card, I'll find it here in a second. It should be, Irrigated Farmland. There it is. This is the only card that enters battlefield tapped in my deck. Every other single card in my deck comes to play untapped. Now, I am familiar with Blood Moon. I know what Blood Moon does. I could run no basics or no basics in here if I had other OG duels, but I don't have access to OG duels. I've never planned on buying OG duels. This deck will never have OG duels in it. But instead, I run one planes. I'm a tainted pack list, so I have to do it this way. I can't have any card that has the same name as another card, even basic lands, or tainted pack won't work. So I'm only allowed 4 basics. Or I'm only allowed up to 6 basics, but I run only 4. And how I get away with this is island plus snow-covered island, different names, so it counts, but they're both basic islands, and then I have a plains and a swamp. Another thing this hedges me against with all these 9 fetch lands is if I think Blood Moon's coming, I can go ahead and get my basic island. I can go ahead and get my basic plains. I can go ahead and get my basic swamp. Or I can get my island and I can get my snow-covered island. And then when they Blood Moon me, I will still be able to produce colored mana off of my lands and be A-okay. No problem. I at least have to do that. So, and it also saves me from back to basics, somewhat. So that is a consideration to take in the hand. Is Blood Moon and back to basics and cards such as that make running a whole bunch of non-basic lands bad. With this MTG Goldfish, not only can you check out the metagame of Standard, you can check it out for Modern. You can check it out for Explorer. So you know what to sideboard in, put in your main deck, if you're running into these decks a lot of the times. Like I run into Matt Rakato's mid-range almost every other battle. If I don't have it back-to-back, I'm very familiar with this deck. I know what it does. I know how to shut it down. I don't actually have the proper tools to shut it down, but I can't give it a run for its money. It just depends. But that's some of the tools you can use. And if you're not sure on how a deck runs just by looking at a list, that's what YouTube's for. Go look up the deck list. Standard, what? As for Control, I do believe it is. And, well, there's a video on it 2 weeks ago. You want to sort this, I bet you all know about this, by, this week. Oh yeah, one day ago, 14-0 with that deck. You know, just look at it, see if it's something you want to run, understand how it works, so if you face it, you know what you're doing. You know, that's how you use these tools in tandem to figure out what you need to do. This video is going on 50 minutes, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but, you know, I hope these tools help somebody, and you can look deck lists on Walksfield too, and I hope this kind of helps show you what I'm talking about some of the times. Now I'm saying nothing, so we need to just end this now. Be aware of the decks in your meta. Now, if you're playing on Arena, it's all the same meta. If you're playing in paper, your meta is different depending on which store. Because it doesn't really matter if you're facing the same decks you're facing on Arena. It's in what number, how many, and how often is how you need to adjust. Sure, if one player runs Esper Control, but they only show up every other week, I don't need to sideboard hard against that. Take my L's from him and move on, and hopefully have enough sideboard to beat all the other decks that I do face daily there. That's one consideration to take into, whatever. Anyways, this has been Will from Magic the Friendly Tavern. Please come check us out on Facebook, YouTube, WordPress, all over the place. I want you to have happy pack pulls, and as always, happy games.